To talk about that, Ohio Republican Senator Rob Portman, a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, thanks for being here.
But always good to be on with you.
You know, we've been doing this series, and all elements of it, it is impossible to overstate how big a deal this is.
We focus a lot on the border because of the people coming across, and last month was the most illegal entries ever, again, as it was the previous month. But we don't talk about as much is the fact that a lot of drugs are coming as well, and sometimes with those individuals. So we know last month that there were 1,100 pounds seized of fentanyl. That's a record. By the way, it has quadrupled in the last 2 years, doubled in the last year. That's enough to kill, they say, 200 million Americans.
We've got these maps showing that a lot of it's coming from China, some going to Canada, Mexico, into the U.S., but the stuff mainly going across the border from Mexico is the biggest problem. Well, you mentioned the crossings and the seizures. 2022, 7,745 pounds. That's down from 2021, 11,201 pounds. And you mentioned the lethality. Heritage Foundation says it takes only 2 milligrams to be lethal. That's not even enough to cover the year on the front of a penny in your pocket. I don't think most parents fully get that. You said you were giving a commencement or a speech at Ohio State, and you had to alter it because of deaths there.
Yeah, a few days before the Ohio State graduation, 3 students, overdosed and died. It appears as though it was them thinking they were taking Adderall, which is a study drug that young people take. They apparently bought these on the street. So, it was very sad because my talk was going to be more inspiring about the future, but I had to include in that the fact that to all the parents and all the students who were there, you cannot trust any drug, any street drug.
The cause of death for Americans age 18 to 45, we've got this stat. In 2019, suicide, fentanyl was way up there, but in 2020, fentanyl goes through the roof. I guess what I want to know is, from your perspective, what could this administration be doing differently? I mean, is there a public element to this? Are they doing enough? Where do you think this falls?
I think there's 3 obvious things to do. One is to tighten the border. This border problem is about contraband. It's not just about people, and specifically it's about this opioid that is synthetic, that is deadly, that's causing about 2/3 of the overdose deaths in America. Second, we've got to figure out a national message here that makes sense to get out to people. I think it's worth spending some money by the administration to do a national media campaign. We did it at one time, and it was somewhat effective. Nancy Reagan was famous for that. But it's a pretty obvious message right now, which is simply any drug you take can kill you.
Any drug, and even the smallest amount.
So it's being mixed into everything, cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and so on, but even drugs, again, like antidepressants, Xanax, and so on. So that message needs to get out, and needs to get out urgently to save lives. Third, more prevention, which is this message we're talking about, but also getting people into treatment and longer-term recovery. So it's a combination of things. Obviously, the other part of this, which is not so much what we need to do, but what these other countries need to do with our strong urging, is that China and Mexico need to clean up their act.
We talked to Border Patrol officials. Here's what they said.
What the cartels do is they flood our resources with illegal immigrants. It pulls those agents out of the field, and it creates gaps in coverage. That's when they're able to cross our higher value products, such as fentanyl, criminal aliens, aliens from special interest countries.
Basically, it's like a water balloon. You hit it one place, and they go someplace else. And we have a major gaps along that border.
You're absolutely right. So they're distracted by a group on purpose. This is deliberate distraction. And then quietly, you see guys with backpacks running, running through the desert who, are carrying something. And the assumption from the Border Patrol that I talked to is that they think most of it is getting through. So I do think tightening up the border makes sense.
Is this an attack by China? Do you think that this is going after our country this way specifically?
Well, I've always felt that China was being irresponsible in how they dealt with this issue. I went to China a few years ago and actually met with the premier on this and made a strong pitch saying, again, this is in your interest too, because there's leakage in China. People are dying from it. They will never acknowledge that. They won't talk about that, but this hurts them too.
We think it's important, and we're putting some time and effort into covering it.
Thank you for doing that.
Senator, we appreciate your time today.